it's kind of weird for me to use a microphone because I'm very loud. And so typically I don't need a microphone, and when I speak at church, the sound people go, "It's Stacie, turn the microphones way down," because she is so loud. So I'll try not to, when I get excited and I talk about God and all He's done in my life and who He has been, and because of Him, it's the only reason I'm standing here today. I do get a little bit loud, so I'm sorry, but I'll try to keep it down. So like Pastor Ken said, my name is Stacie. And so I'm just going to share a little bit of my story and kind of maybe why outreach is so important to me, why women who are struggling are so important to me. I grew up in a Christian home. I had wonderful parents, grew up in a great church, but I really hit my teenage years, and I'm a very type A personality, and I don't like people telling me what to do. And yeah, I know, right? You can imagine my husband just loves every part of that. But anyway, and I really just found myself going, you know what? This God person is really somebody that my parents served. And I don't really know that it's really what I want to do, and I don't really know if it's someone I want to get to know. And I just kind of began to go my own way, was very rebellious. And started entering into a lifestyle. I taught the class boundaries last night to Fresh Hope women. And so I told them, I said, I lived a life with no boundaries because I didn't want people telling me what to do. And what began was a lifestyle that of sin, of just me walking right into it. I tell people, no one made the choice but me. I made the choice. I knew what I was doing, and I did it anyway. And so I found myself pregnant, unmarried, and thought, well, now I'm an embarrassment to my family, to my church. It was very embarrassing. I didn't want to tell everybody, but as pregnancy goes, you have to tell someone eventually. And I thought, well, the thing that I can do to save face is I will marry the guy. My second mistake. And he was quite a bit older than I was. And then I found myself in an abusive situation, which was very difficult for me, very different for me. I didn't really know how to handle it. I didn't really know. I kept it very hidden for a very, very long time. I didn't want people to know. I didn't want people to hear about it. And all the while I was pregnant. We got kind of married in secret, and I'm pregnant and had lots of issues with my pregnancy and had the baby. And so now I had a young baby, right, in this situation, and didn't really know where to go. Listen, this is my son now, he will be 30 this year, which that blows my mind. How could I have a 30-year-old? But you have to realize 30 years ago, this wasn't things that was talked about. It just wasn't. It was things that you kept hidden. And if you were pregnant out of wedlock, it was just, that was something that you should be ashamed of and should be embarrassed about. But I thought, well, I certainly don't want to add divorce to it because, well, the church is really going to frown on that, because I was coming from, like I said, a Christian background with family members that had not been divorced, and I was left pretty hopeless, and I didn't really know where to turn, and I really didn't know what to do. I don't even really want to say that I really turned to Christ in that moment, because I felt so unworthy. I felt very, very unworthy because I had walked into this kind of lifestyle myself. I knew it was wrong, and I had walked right into it with just this nonchalant attitude of, I don't really care, Lord. I don't really care, and no one's going to tell me that I have to love you and that I have to serve you and that I have to go to church. I've lived a life of that, and I'm going to do things my own way. And I just remember in this relationship, things began to escalate. And listen, I was no picnic to live with. Let's be real clear about that. Not to say that I deserved any of it, but I wasn't easy to live with either. I was angry. I was very, very angry. Doesn't make sense, but I was probably even a little angry at God, right? And because here I was, even though, right, I was this pendulum that swung back and forth with angry at God, and then this other thing that I'm so unworthy and I'm so ashamed. I really don't want anyone to know what my life has turned out to be. I had been, enrolled in WSU. I quit. I didn't do any of that. I didn't finish any of my classes. Only had one semester under my belt, and all of these big things in my life that I wanted to do. And because of sin in my life, I had found myself extremely lost. There was an episode about a year and a half in, and I just remember my parents intervened, and I remember my dad. My dad is a very calm, tender man, but I remember him saying, put him on the phone and I need you to go out of the room. I was like, oh, okay, Dad. And I don't know what my dad said. To this day, he still won't tell me. All I know is that my husband came back in, handed me my car keys, and said, you and Joshua are free to leave. So get in your car and go. And you've got about 5 minutes. I got in my car and I went to my parents' house, and my parents set me down and said, you have to get out. This is at the point now where this is going to affect Josh. So you see, at this point, I still didn't think that I deserved to get out. But now I had a little baby with me. And so plans were made, and that's what happened is while he was at work, I moved out. And so here I was, now a single mom living in the basement of my parents' house. It still gets me, very, very broken. I was so broken, and I was so ashamed. Guilt, man, when I tell you the enemy had just done a number on me, and I thought, well, this is just my life. I walked into it, I made a mess of my life. And so, a side note, when I hear some of the ministries that y'all do, I want you to know, without people like you, I wouldn't have been here.
That's good.
And what happened is, then people began to come alongside me, like in my mess, and it was a mess. It was messy, messy, messy. And they just said, well, we're going to love you in your mess. Like, how about we'll just be Jesus to you in your mess? And we don't need you like to clean up your mess, and we don't need you to get all of your life in order. And like at that point, I wasn't even serving God. But it was Christian people just like you with nonprofits, right? I remember I walked into the doors of, back then it was a pregnancy crisis center. It's Embrace now. What's funny is I've done a big video for them, and people will walk into our church and they go, we don't want to ask you this, but are you the Embrace lady? And I say, yes, I am. And do you know that now I feel no guilt and I feel no shame? I feel no remorse from that. I said, yeah, you're right. That's me. I'm on the video, and I was the one that walked in 30 years ago, to that little local nonprofit. And so these things that you guys are doing, they were for women like me. Because without them, without somebody walking alongside of me and loving me right where I was at, that's what made the difference. And they begin to tell me, Jesus wants to love you right where you're at. And he can forgive you, and he can set you on a new path. And I thought I remember the day I thought, well, I've tried everything else. And I even came from a Christian background, but I thought, you know what, Lord, if you can make all of the crooked ways straight, if you can somehow redeem my life, and I don't know how you're going to do it. I've given everything else a shot, so I might as well give you a shot. And I asked him to come into my life, asked him to take over, and I didn't know where it would take me. So here I am all these years later, and if it was not for God redeeming me and picking me right up in my mess, loving me right where I was at and saying, you're forgiven. It's as if it never happened, and I have a purpose and a plan for your life. You have not messed it up so bad that I can't get in the middle of it and make it good and make it great and make it fruitful. And so it was just step by step, little bit by little bit. It took me a lot longer to forgive myself. It took me a lot longer to come to the place where I could talk about what had happened, where I could be in a position that I could tell someone and I could just give God the glory, and I didn't feel the shame and I didn't feel the regret. And now I can stand you all these years later. I'm 49. Josh is, like I said, he's 29. He'll be 30 this year. I've been married for almost 27 years to an incredible, godly man who loves Josh as his own. It's always funny when I hear him tell people, oh yeah, well, our oldest son is, yeah, he's going to be 30 this year. Oh yeah, we've been married 27 years. And you watch people go, What? But I love that about him because that's who God sent to me to live out some of that redemption. I have 2 other children. Had our first grandchild 6 months ago, and it's all true. People are like, grandchildren are so great. Like, they kept telling me, right? Like, your kid, they gonna take second place. And I thought, oh, that can't happen. And then Jack was born. And then I now go, where is Jack? Get out of my way, Megan and Jordan. Get me to Jack. And so I stand here, and I told God, every opportunity you give me, every single chance. I don't care if it's a place like this. I don't care if it's in the Walmart checkout. I don't care where I'm at, Lord, but I will tell people of the way you redeemed my life.
Yeah.
And that I was on a path of destruction. I would have been in jail. I would have been in these places if God had not redeemed me. He not only saved me, but he redeemed me. And that's what's so important. I try to tell these women, God says that he's not only going to save you, he redeems you, which means what the enemy has stolen, what you've allowed the enemy to steal, I allowed him to steal it. God says, watch me work. Watch me work, and I will make your life bigger and better than you ever dreamed. So it was 2004, and I was serving God, and I had my children, not my youngest one yet, Jacob. We have a little straggler. He's 18, graduating this year. But 2004, they were having a missions trip to Jamaica, and so I went on the missions trip because I thought, I don't know, Jamaica sounds fun. There wasn't really anything godly about it. I just thought, okay, let's go. Went over there, and it's in a little Jamaican Bible college in Montego Bay. That I'd never been experienced God like that, and I'm on the floor, nose to the tile, and God said, if you will give me every moment and every day from the rest of your life, I will turn your life into something great. Of course, I was like, well, Lord, I really thought I had already done that. And he said, no, I'm asking for all of your life, every bit of it. Will you give me every bit of it? I tell people back then, if he would have said go into the ministry, I'd have been like, no, thank you. I'm good. No, I really would have. That's never what I dreamed he was asking of. Came back from Jamaica, and then it just began these series, right, of God opening these doors, and God said, here's all I need you to do. Say yes. When I tell you to say yes, you say yes. When I tell you to close a door, you close a door. I owned a business, a very successful preschool that I loved, and God said, close it. I was like, oh, I mean, that's not going to work for me, Lord. I mean, I don't really want to do that. I mean, that's not really, he let me go another year, and then he said, now, if you don't close it, now you're disobeying me. I'm like, why do you have to be so mean, Lord? He's like, I've been telling you a year. I closed it in faith, didn't know what that meant. And then what God began to do is he began to lead me in this path of ministry and allowed me to become a pastor at the very church that I had been attending for 20 plus years. And what a blessing that these were the people who had loved me, right? And had mentored me and poured into me, that I had started Bible. It was just so crazy that God would allow me the privilege to do that. Well, then we brought in Convoy of Hope. And so I was working with women, but not as much as I wanted to. I didn't really know the places and the way to make that happen. And so this will actually be our 8th year of Convoy, my 6th year of being the executive director. And so, but that is when, a few years before that, is when God really began to turn my heart to outreach. And what did that mean? And he began to really challenge me. Would you take what I have done in your life, and would you share it with others so that they know that there is a God that loves them and sees them right where they are? And that I have a plan and a purpose for their life, and they can never run too far or fall too low.
That's correct. That
my love and my salvation and my forgiveness and my mercy and grace cannot reach them. And I said, absolutely, Lord. Absolutely, God. Anything you want from me, I will do. And that is why Convoy of Hope Wichita is such a big deal for me. Several things because of outreach, because I want to love people right where they are at.
Somebody in here might not know what Convoy of Hope is. Give
Yes.
us your stats last year.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So they know what this is.
Absolutely. So Convoy of Hope Wichita is a one-day event that we hold here in the city. This will be our 8th year. We do 2 locations. One of them is at Bethel Life Center on that big expansive property there. Our second location is at McAdams Park down at 135 and 13th, so the north part of town. And what it does is it really started out to help struggling families for school. Getting your kids ready for school is extremely expensive. And so we wanted to find a way to kind of bring everybody together so parents could do it all in a one-stop shop. Because what we are doing is we're basically, all of you nonprofits, y'all are on the ground every day. The churches, y'all are doing it every day. We just wanted to provide a place where it's a one-day event that parents can come and they can get backpacks full of school supplies and shoes and a haircut and immunizations and a sports and a school physicals and all of these things. We do lunch, we have a kids zone, they can be seen by a dentist or a doctor, Dress for Success, all of these things. And then we have all of the nonprofits that are represented in here. We invite y'all to come and we say, hey, can you be a connector? We would love to be a connector point. So the goal of Convoy of Hope Wichita, and some church people, they don't like it when I say this, but it's just the truth. Our goal is not salvation. It's not, okay? Does salvation happen? Of course. Do we want salvation to happen? Yes, we do. Everybody that leaves goes through a prayer tent, okay? And that is, we are very strategic about that because we understand this is our most important tent, right? Is the prayer tent. And they walk through and we say, hey, is there anything that we can pray with you about? In Wichita, we see incredibly high numbers. We're looking at a solid 90 to 92% of the people say yes. So then they grab them, and some of you guys have worked in that prayer tent, and you pray with them. And so what we want to do is, our goal is to meet people right where they are at. We want to show them the love of Christ in a tangible way with no strings attached. For a lot of people, we're just showing them a different side of the church. Not a church, the church. Because some of them come in very bitter, right? Walls built up about, well, I've heard about you Christians, and I've heard about you church people, and I don't really do what you want me to do, and I don't look like you want me to look. And what happens is when they are greeted by our incredible volunteers who show them value and look them in the eye and say, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're here. How can I help? Can I push your stroller around today? I don't care. What do you want me to do? Let me hold your baby. What, again, let's just sit here and go have lunch. And it begins to break down barriers, and it begins to change the way they feel about who God is. That we have the ability to do that. And that's what we want to do at Convoy of Hope, is to begin to change that look of what that may look like. And they get into that prayer tent, and then we've been working really hard the last couple of years is that to help them be connected to a local church. Because here's the thing, we close up shop at Convoy, and we are leaning on the local churches to then step in and disciple these people. Because remember I told you, for me it was a journey, right? And if people had met me all along my journey, well, at Convoy of Hope, we see anywhere from 7,000 to 12,000 people between the two sites. So I'm telling you, there are people all across the board on that journey. The second thing that I want to say is that it's for anybody. A lot of people think Convoy of Hope is just for families in poverty. That's not it. We do no background checks. There's no proof of income. I tell people you can drive up in, I don't know, a Lexus, a Cadillac, a Mercedes-Benz, or a limo. I don't care. We're not going to go, we saw what you were driving and we're not going to be able to serve you. Go get at the back of the line. We treat them just like someone who is homeless that is walking in off the street. We don't care, because that's not the purpose. We want to love them wherever they are at in their journey, whatever that looks like. And so it's a way for us to connect people to a local church. It's a way for us to begin to change maybe who they view Christians as and the church as. And then in the other side is that then we provide them with the goods and services that they need to get their kids ready for school. And their kids can get a new pair of shoes and backpacks, and you watch them. It's crazy. It's like the greatest day in my life, and I love it. I laugh and I say, oh Lord, I do it every Saturday. And then I go, not really, God. It's a lot of work. But that's kind of what Convoy of Hope is, and that's why it means so much to me, because people that come and volunteer, churches that come and volunteer, nonprofits that come and are a part of what we do, that's who helped me. If people had not helped me all of those years ago, I would not be here today, and I would not be leading Convoy of Hope Wichita. I just simply wouldn't. I would still be a very broken girl. But God used people like you, like the people that come to Convoy of Hope, and God just, I'd like to say that, God just waved his magic God wand, right? And I was whole. That's not how it was. God went and picked up one piece of my heart, and we dealt with that, and he healed me from that. Then he went and picked up another piece of my heart, and we dealt with that, and he healed me from that. And so that's what I want people to know, is that it's a journey, it's a process, and we want to love them and meet them right where they are at. So I have a notebook for everybody, or like this little folder. It gives you all the details about Convoy of Hope Wichita. Last year we saw over 7,000 people on both sites. Our date this year is Saturday, July 25th. And I know people are like, really, it's so hot in July. I'm like, I know, it is, but we gonna be fine. It's Wichita. So yes, it could be hot. It could also be 60 and rainy. We just don't know. But July 25th is going to be our date. And so I have some information. I have the numbers that we have done over the last 7 years. Let me look, because I always, my old lady eyes. So in 7 years, we have reached 54,569 people. Wow. In 7 years. We have done over 687,000 pounds of groceries. We have given 24,750 backpacks, 22,671 pairs of shoes, and we have seen 7,189 women that have come through the National Breast Cancer Foundation tent. And those are just a few of the numbers that we have done. But honestly, we can't do it without the church. We just simply can't, because you get our mission. You get what we are all about. You understand that we use this. Many of you know in this room, outreach is a vehicle to reach the lost. And if you don't think it is, you're wrong. But outreach is a vehicle that God expects the church to use to reach those that are lost. Yeah. And I have no problem giving somebody a free backpack. I have no problem giving them a free pair of shoes. I have no problem with that. I say, come on, we want to just give it all. That's great. Because I understand that that is a way to meet people right where they are at and to reach the lost for Christ. And so I would just ask you that if you would prayerfully consider, your church, joining us, maybe with volunteers. Listen, the best thing you can do for us is pray. That is the best thing anyone can do for us. People are like, besides give you money. I said, well, of course I want money. I want lots of it. I mean, it takes about $150,000 to pull this off. So yes, I want money. But I also understand that the only way I won't get money is if people pray. Right. And so I tell people, the first thing I want you to do is, would you pray for us? Please pray for me. Pray for finances. Pray that God is just going to have his way. Whatever God wants to do with Convoy of Hope Wichita, we say yes. Whatever he wants to do with it, I don't even care. I just want to follow his leading. And so we need churches. If you ever would want me to come and talk for a few minutes, I'm sorry, that's my keys going off my tile. I also lose stuff. But if you would ever want me to come and speak at your church, I'd be honored, so honored, just for just a few minutes to talk to your congregation about what Convoy is and how they can be involved. But we need volunteers. We need you in our prayer tent. If you would ever want to give an offering, of course, we're like a church. We are a nonprofit. We ain't ever turning away money. Never. Because it takes money. We all know that. But all my contact information is in here, and so I'd love to meet with y'all at a later date or to see how we can partner. And I appreciate every one of you in this room. Like I said, when y'all were all introducing yourselves, it was so funny because I just was kind of having a moment with God, just kind of giggling a little bit and smiling. And I thought, Lord, I don't know that these people in this room will ever understand and ever know this side of heaven, how much they have impacted Wichita, Kansas for you. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because it was people like you that made a difference in my life. And I don't think you will ever know. I think you will get to heaven and you'll just see all of these people that, like Rob said, with a connection, or whether it's a hello, or whether a conversation, or just a kind word and encouragement, that there will be a long line because of the people in this room said, Lord, I just want to do and be who you're calling me to be. And it'll just be the song I play all day long, God, is talking about who you are and how you're loving and you redeemed us and you saved us and set us on a new path. So I'm going to stop or I'm going to start preaching and giving 3 points, right? But thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, David.